we gonna politic together, all right? So why is it that, what's the real reason that Israel can't come into the truth? Do you guys know that? What the real reason is that we can't seem to come into the truth? It's because we can't stop loving our enemies, right? And the reason we can't stop loving our enemies is because in the 1950s, right, there was this civil rights movement that started. And that civil rights movement, the conclusion of that civil rights movement got us to band hands with the white man and the rest of these nations. So every year since then, we've been working on trying to be cool with everybody, right? And now it's 2019 going on 2020 and everybody cool, right? It's a melting pot now. That's what they call it here in America, right? So now a system that was never meant for us to thrive in, we've been basically given as a gift to take part in with the other nations, right? Even though we at the bottom of the totem pole, they still letting us gift in, right? And for some reason, our people are just, well, cool. We in, so let's get it, right? I'm with it, let's get it. So that's it. They in here, and we out here, basically we've integrated and we've assimilated to the culture of the white man. And now because of that, we don't want to follow our own culture. It's hard for us to leave what they've taught us because we know that if we do what we're supposed to do as a people and come back to our culture and nationality, they're not going to accept us anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of us want to be accepted by the white man, right? So that's why we're not becoming Israelites and coming back to our nationality. So somebody give me Hosea chapter 4 verse 6. Somebody else get Colossians chapter 2 verse 8. We're going to start there. Because those are the big scriptures for, dummies. Just the reason we're dummies, right? So whoever get Hosea 4 and 6 first, and then the other person get Colossians. I think he got Hosea. Okay, he got Colossians. You get Hosea. Y'all did that perfectly because he wasn't even looking for that.
This is the book of Hosea, chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
So our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? The so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians, you 12 tribes of Israel, you're destroyed for a lack of knowledge. The reason you guys don't know who you are is because of your lack of knowledge, right? And the reason you're not looking for who you are is because of the civil rights movement and Dr. Martin Luther King, right? We're going to talk about it today. Y'all going to get it because he's the main reason, he's the corporate, right? For the reason why we've been able to assimilate and integrate the way that we have. And believe it or not, even though they're still killing us on TV, this integration has been successful, right? Kids get to go to school together, black and white kids, you know what I'm saying? They're going to college. It's black folks marrying white folks and you ain't getting lynched for it no more. His dream kind of came true, you know what I'm saying? So to an extent, that's the reason why we can't come to the truth, because now we're so stuck up in that type of society where we want to be accepted by everybody instead of just being to ourselves and being about our own people, right? Y'all come hear the word. Y'all want to come hear the word, man?
Yeah, come learn about your nationality.
Nah, I think they might be Jake, bro. They might be Jake, bro. They might be Jake. Never call any man unclean, yo. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody's skin to you ain't kin to you, but sometimes it is, though. You feel?
I think that's Issachar song.
Give me Colossians chapter 2 verse 8. Oh, you ain't finished?
No. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee.
Yeah, you guys have rejected knowledge. You guys aren't even trying to figure out who you are, and it's because you've assimilated and integrated into this society. Now you're at the point where you don't even care, right? You just want to be Americans, African Americans, right? Black Americans. Don't even know that black is a color and Africa and America are two different places, so your stupid behind can't be for both of them, right? Go ahead.
Shalaki. Yeah, page up.
I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children.
He said that you guys will be no priest to him, and because you've forgotten the law of your God, you will be no priest to him. You see how long they stayed? I told y'all was Jake. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about, bro. Go ahead, Colossians 2 and 8.
This is the book of Colossians, chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men, after the rudiment of the world, and not after Christ.
See, and that's a good thing to see too, by the way, because I do feel like they Jake. The wife got on a dress, it's modest. The daughter got on a dress with fringes. You know what I'm saying? That's spiritual, bro. That's Jake right there in front of you, man. And you know what? None of them look like us. So what's that? What'd that tell you? That we've been scattered and now we look different. So what was that idiot talking about earlier? How are you gonna look at all these different nationalities and say that we're all the same people? how can you be, well, how can a Mexican and me be the same person? And when I told him I'm from the tribe of Gad, he was confounded. Oh, well, you're not your dad, nigga.
You don't look like them.
Right, you don't look like them because my mom is Haitian. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. That's exactly what I'm saying, bro. So,
Can I say something real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
They be forgetting how Native Americans originally looked, a lot of them.
Well, I knew based on what he said, he didn't even know that. So, I wasn't even gonna try to teach him that mess because he wasn't gonna believe me. Was that it? No.
That was it.
So, what happened for us to basically lose who we were? Did he just do that for real?
Yeah, into the birds.
Yeah, they got that. Alright. But yeah, so like what's the real reason? How did we get how we are, right? Give me Deuteronomy 28:48. It's because they gave us freedom, right? They gave us liberty. 1865. That's when we became free, right? That's what started the whole civil rights movement. Because what happened was we became free. We wanted to separate from the white man, right? So we started this thing 20 years later called Black Wall Street, right? Or 60 years later, right? So 60 years removed from slavery, hardcore bondage and everything like that, we're starting our own communities. We got like 6 private jets. We had our own bus system. We had doctors and dentists and lawyers, right? We had jobs. We had our own neighborhoods, our own trash system, and our own workers, right? You understand what I'm saying? It was a community of our own where we were just feeding our own and just helping our own. And the dollar was staying in our community. You understand? Because we weren't spending it with nobody else. Now the dollar travels around the community like one time and then it leaves, right? Probably not even. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, just think if we were to get back to that spot. But the reason it's so hard to do now is because of what you see right there, man. The Most High's made it manifest twice since I started talking about this. I don't even know if you knew it. Pan the camera. You gotta get it. You gotta get it on camera. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about integration here. Now you go with Jake and the snake, right? Right? Jake and the snake. You feel me? His last name probably Roberts, right?
You gotta let me know.
And that's because we're basically in a situation, in a state, in a society where all of that is okay. It's cool for them to do that. You understand what I'm saying? It's perfectly okay for that to happen. So what we have to understand is that we have to get back to ourselves. We have to get back to being about our own people. So the reason we got here is because of slavery, man. Let's read that right quick. Deuteronomy 28:48.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness.
Right. It says that you shall serve your enemies, that the Most High will send against you in hunger, in thirst, and in nakedness. That's why we're all in the condition that we're in out here in 5 Points, right? Jake liked to dwell in tents. If y'all had any place to dwell, y'all wouldn't be out here sitting there playing chess, man. The reason y'all in that condition right now is because you don't have nowhere else to go, right? And it's because of this situation right here. We were put in slavery, and a lot of us are still in that mind state because the certain traumatic experiences, they get traveled down through your genes. Did y'all know that? Certain traumas are psychological, and they can be psychologically passed down through your children and your generations. So, right, PTSD is like a form of that, right? So there's basically like a PTSD that is in the brains of every single slave descendant out here, right? Whether y'all know it or not. And that's the reason we act the way we act. When we get depressed, we always look for a vice, right? That's why so many brothers smoke weed and stuff like that. And that's why when the weed ain't strong enough, they start looking for pills, right? When the pills ain't good enough, then they hop to cocaine. When cocaine ain't straight, then they do the meth, right? It's a cycle, because they're looking for those vices. You feel what I'm saying? Or some of the people become vices of like, they get a sexual vice, right? They use people for that. And that's because through slavery, they might have been the people who had the ancestors who was getting raped and stuff, right? The ancestors who was the people that was the bucks and stuff, having to repopulate the entire, no, I'm good.
Some Native Americans used to drink.
Right, and that's why Gad is all drunk, unfortunately, right? We at the reservation is drunk as a skunk because we over here, we used to like to drink, and it's getting passed down through our generations. Same thing with the Haitians, right? A lot of Levi love to drink. Y'all is crazy with alcohol. Y'all will suck down some baba cootin like it's nothing, bro. Yeah, all day. So, Deuteronomy 28:48. Keep going.
Hear the word.
Yeah, y'all wanna come hear the word? Do y'all know your nationality according to the Bible? Did y'all know y'all have a nationality according to the Bible? that there's no such thing as an African American or a black person? Sis, you the same color as your hair? You the same color as your bra strap, man? Same color as your shoes, as your belt?
What are they here? What are they for bear?
Come on, man.
Right? And ye shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
He said that he would put a yoke of iron upon your neck until when?
Until he have destroyed thee.
So the reason that the yoke of iron came off our necks, guys, the reason that slavery ended is because we were destroyed and they knew it. There was no reason for them to have to keep us in hardcore bondage because we were already to the point where we weren't going to fight back. And that's why we didn't, right? Our only form of fighting back had to come 60 years later when we decided to start our own communities, right? And that's when we were teaching our own people. We had our own education system. So we were able to teach our people about our ancestors, right? About the different people in slavery that started revolts and stuff like that. About the people that made all the different inventions out here that they teach us was made by white folks, like the light bulb and all that mess, right? So it's like, these are things that we were able to learn and teach ourselves in our own communities that we're not being taught now. Now we only get taught whose history, right? Everybody else's. You understand? You get taught the white man's history up until you get to the 7th grade, and then you take world history. You learn about the Asian man history, a little bit of the African man history, and a lot of the Arabs history, and then you go back to living the white man's history every year after that until you graduate.
It's like we searching for our history the whole time.
And and the whole time we searching for our history, right? You have to pay money to go to a college and actually take a college history course where you'll learn anything true about black people. And then you have to do an African American studies major or take an African American studies history course just to learn the truth about what they were telling you in the damn class, right? And a lot of the time, the African American studies teacher doesn't tell you the full truth because they think they're Egyptian or some mess, or they're Pan-Africanist. So they're not trying to tell you the facts about us being the Hebrew Israelites because they just want to stop at West Africa. They don't want to go no further than that. They don't want to even find out where we were before West Africa. They don't care about nothing before 1619, right? Everything is 1619 on forward. So it's like, that's the type of things we have to realize and understand. It's all because of integration. The reason we don't get that that education is because of integration. They've integrated us into their school system. It's called the Prussian school system, right? The school system we have is the same school system that came from the Prussians. I forget what the dude's name is, but Otto something, I think. But he basically was like the king of Prussia in either the late 1800s or the early 1900s. He started this school system where you would be taught to be servants, right? And in this school system, this like in this Prussian school system, the people would be taught to be servants. They were taught to go to school, right? And get a good job, and then work until they're 70 years old, and then retire and they get a pension. And guess who adopted that in the 1970s? America. Instead, they made the retirement age 65 instead of 70 to give you guys 5 more years to live, right? The problem was, the whole reason why this Prussian system worked and it was successful is because the people in Prussia back then weren't living past 40 years old on average. So most of them would never get that pension because you'd have to live till 70 to get the pension. You know what I'm saying? In America, we were living past 65. So the reason we don't have pensions in America no more is because everybody got the pension. I was able to get the pension because none of them died. You understand what I'm saying? The reason you guys are going to college right now and you can't get the job that you're going to college for is the same reason. Because none of those people are dead. They're still in the jobs that they're working at 70 years old because they don't have enough money to retire. Because they're not getting their pensions anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a continuous cycle. And it's all based off of integration. All of this is happening to you because we integrate. And the integration only happened because of one person, right? This one person didn't start off as an integrationalist. He started off as somebody that wanted to keep us separate, right? Martin Luther King was a separatist at first, but he was paid off, right? Most of y'all don't know his first girlfriend that he loved was a white girl. He was already into white folks before he started the civil rights movement. The only reason he started it and got with Coretta Scott King is because the white girl broke up with him because it didn't look good for them to be together no more. And it didn't look, because he was trying to be an activist, right? So they started getting into fights and it just wasn't working out. So once he realized I can't be with her right now, he started messing with Coretta. That's why he cheated on her and had no problem with it, because he really wasn't into that. You know what I'm saying? Martin liked white women. So that's why when he got the opportunity, he met Bayard Rustin, the faggot, right? He was gay. So he met Gayard Rustin, and Gayard Rustin is basically who made him a nonviolent activist. Because like I said, he wasn't nonviolent before. He met a gay man and let the gay man become the head of his operation. That's the same gay man that taught him how to do the March on Washington. The same gay man that taught him how to march in Alabama. You know what I'm saying? And get your butt whooped and get your kids beat and all that stuff. Get the hoses blown on you and don't do nothing about it, right? Because his white counterparts that were homosexual back in the 70s were able to walk with people like Angela Davis, a group of women working for their rights, and they weren't hosed down and gunned down and stuff like that, right? So gay white dudes and straight white women don't get hosed down, and they think that black people are gonna have the same type of outcome when they're doing the same thing, right? Which obviously didn't happen, because we got people that were killed marching with Martin Luther King, right? We got people like what's that senator in Georgia that talked like he's slow and stuff? He got beat on the bridge or whatever.
And
Yeah, there you go, John Lewis. So John Lewis was walking with Mark, right? And he almost died. He got beat up. He was pummeled almost half to death, right? That's why he talks the way he talks now. And he was a nonviolent activist. But the whole reason that Martin Luther King even took up that style and approach was because he met Gaylord Rustin. I mean Bayard Rustin. I'm sorry.
Gaylord Rustin.
I keep calling him that. So, Bayard Rustin. So yeah, damn, that's crazy, bro. All right, go ahead.
You want to finish that?
Actually,
That was it.
yeah, that's it on that. So I have an article right quick that one of the brothers is gonna read. Actually, I'll read it because I know exactly where to go. And in the meantime, I want you to hold Jeremiah 6 and 14. So this is an article from Teen Vogue. It basically says, aside from the commentary that comprised the live tweets, one or more common statements many people were delivering online was to how they were going to watch Roots or how they weren't going to watch Roots because they didn't want to go to work pissed off, right? So basically, to give y'all a dialogue of what's going on in the article, in 2016, there was a thing that happened, a survey they were doing where they wanted to see if black people would watch Roots and what the like conditions of it would be, right? So most of the black people were saying they weren't going to watch it before work because they have to work around white people and they didn't want to go to work pissed off, right? And the white people were like, why are y'all pissed off about something that happened 400 years ago? That's the same reason they asked us questions about us, basically being worried about slavery still. That's the reason they wonder why we still worry about slavery, right? But it's okay for them to still think about 9/11 and the Alamo and all that other crap, right? The Boston Tea Party and all that mess that they celebrate. So it's like, oh, that mess was a long time ago, but y'all still think about it. You still teach it to us, right? So like, why can't we think about slavery? But the whole reason why is because of this, right? What they say in the article. So basically, the people didn't want to go watch it before work because they didn't want to get mad, right? It says, on face value, it's easy for a non-black person to wonder why African Americans over a century removed from slavery can still harbor such strong feelings from just watching TV show. But to be fair, I think we even wonder that about ourselves sometimes. It's a question that has been tackled by some of our greatest and most eloquent writers, but apparently it's also addressed by a component of our society that many of us never expected: science, right? Rachel Yehuda, professor of psychiatry and icon at School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. So this is a Jewish woman, right? Not a Jew, but a Jewish woman. She has conducted a depth of research into epigenetics and the international transmission of trauma. It says, in layman's terms, she is researching how serious incidents of trauma, i.e. slavery, it says, and the Holocaust, but we know the Holocaust didn't really happen to all them people, so they ain't traumatized from that. So it says that trauma from slavery and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, as the brother said earlier, can be passed down from generation to generation in shared family genes. It says her research revealed the same experience when she went to people like with the Holocaust and stuff like that, and she basically asked them questions and they claimed that they went through the same type of stuff. Goodness gracious. All right. So, traumatic experiences. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? And the reason that brother might be dressed up like that is because of a traumatic experience he had, right? Which makes him think that he's a girl now. And, I mean, that's the result. You understand what I'm saying? So, a lot of that happens, right? Things like child molestation happen to people. It's basically a traumatic experience that people go through, right? And it puts them in that situation. That's a situation they end up in if they don't get help, if there's no way for them to find clarity with the situation. So that's things that we have to keep in mind as well, right? So That's basically that, right? Traumatic experiences get passed down through your generation from generation. So that's why the white man knew that they could make us free through slavery. You understand what I'm saying? They could let us go, take the yoke of iron off our neck, and we wouldn't fight back. Because we were already so traumatically traumatized from that experience that we had in slavery for 400 years, right? That there was no reason for us to want to fight back. We were just happy to be out of slavery. We was docile, exactly.